The cream-coloured envelope sat on my kitchen counter like a ticking bomb. Through the translucent paper, I could make out the elegant cursive that could only belong to one person: Violet. My hands trembled as I picked it up, the weight of it far heavier than mere paper should be. I'm Anne, and that envelope contained an invitation to a housewarming party. At my house. The one I designed, the one I poured my heart into, the one that was supposed to be my forever home. Now it belonged to my ex-husband Malik and his new wife Violet. "You have to be kidding me," I muttered, tearing open the envelope with more force than necessary. The invitation was as pretentious as I expected, thick cardstock with gold foil lettering. My phone buzzed. It was my sister Zoe. "Did you get it?" "Oh, I got it all right," I said, pacing my rental apartment's kitchen. "They're having a housewarming party. In my house, the house I designed." "The nerve of those two!" Zoe's voice crackled through the speaker. "What are you going to do?" I walked to my window, staring at the city skyline I used to see from my dream home's master bedroom. "Nothing. I'm not going." "Maybe you should." "What?" I stopped pacing. "Have you lost your mind?" "Think about it, Anne. You're an architect. That house is your masterpiece. Are you really going to let them take that away from you too?" I pressed my forehead against the cool glass. 6 months ago, Malik had blindsided me with divorce papers and a new girlfriend. 3 months ago, he'd somehow convinced the judge to award him the house in the settlement. Now here I was, living in a cramped apartment while they played house in my creation. "You don't understand," I said. "That house, every inch of it was designed with purpose. The breakfast nook that catches the morning sun perfectly. The studio with the north-facing windows for optimal light. The secret compartment behind the kitchen pantry," Zoe interrupted. I froze. "How did you know about that?" "You showed me when you were building it, remember? Said it was the perfect place to hide important documents." Something clicked in my mind. "The original blueprints," I whispered. "They're still there." "Exactly," Zoe said. "And I bet neither Malik nor his precious Violet know about it." My heart started racing. Those blueprints, along with all the original documentation from the build, could change everything. I'd hidden them there during construction, never thinking I'd need them. My phone buzzed again, a text from Aidan, my best friend and attorney. "Got the invitation. We need to talk. Zoe, I have to go. Aidan's calling." "Think about what I said," she urged. "Sometimes you have to walk through fire to reclaim what's yours." I ended the call and immediately dialed Aidan. He picked up on the first ring. "Tell me you're not actually considering going to this party," he said. I wasn't. But now... I walked to my desk, pulling out the folder containing my divorce papers. "Aidan, there might be something in the house. Something that could help us. Anne, as your lawyer, I should tell you to stay away. As your friend..." He paused. "What exactly are we talking about?" "Original blueprints, building permits, contractor agreements. Everything from when I designed and built the house. The ones that mysteriously disappeared during the divorce proceedings?" "Exactly." I flipped through the papers, stopping at the property deed. Malik claimed he contributed significantly to the house's design and construction. These documents prove otherwise. "And you're sure they're still there?" I thought about the hidden compartment, remembered the satisfaction of creating that secret space. "Yes." "Then maybe," Aidan said slowly, "we should RSVP to that party." I looked at the invitation again. 2 weeks from Saturday. Cocktail attire requested. Hosted by Malik and Violet Ray. "You know what the worst part is?" I said, my voice catching. "They're serving cocktails in my kitchen, the kitchen where I spent 3 months perfecting the layout, where I insisted on that specific shade of sage green for the cabinets because it reminded me of my grandmother's house." "Then let's get it back," Aidan said firmly. "All of it." I picked up my pen, hand steady now, as I checked the will attend box on the RSVP card. "Yes," I said, "let's." As I sealed the response card in its envelope, a strange calm settled over me. They thought they were hosting a housewarming party, but really, they were opening the door to their own undoing. and I would be there to watch it all unfold. "You're going to need a killer dress," Zoe said, sprawled across my couch 2 days before the party. "Something that says I'm thriving without you, but also I could destroy you with a single phone call." I was knee-deep in old files, surrounding myself with papers that documented every step of my house's creation. I'm more concerned with finding proof that Malik lied during the divorce proceedings. What exactly are we looking for? Zoe sat up, reaching for one of the folders. Anything that shows I was the sole designer and financial contributor. I pulled out a stack of bank statements. Like this, every payment to contractors came from my personal account. My phone lit up with a text from Aidan. "Found something interesting in the property records. Coming over now." 20 minutes later, Aidan burst through my door, clutching a manila envelope. His tie was loose, and his usually neat hair was disheveled. "You look like you've seen a ghost," I said. He spread several documents across my coffee table, pushing aside the bank statements. "Better. I found a mistake in the deed transfer." Zoe leaned forward. "What kind of mistake?" "The kind that could invalidate Malik's claim to the house." Aidan pointed to a section of fine print. "See this? When the deed was transferred during your divorce, it was recorded under an incorrect property description." "In English, please," I said, my heart racing. "The legal description doesn't match your actual property. It's off by about 30 feet. He looked up at me, eyes bright. "This means the transfer might not be legally binding." "Holy shit," Zoe whispered. I grabbed the paper, scanning the numbers myself. "How did nobody catch this?" "Because nobody was looking for it," Aidan said. "But now that we know..." My phone buzzed. A text from Malik. My stomach lurched as I read it aloud. "Looking forward to seeing you at the party. Violet's made some changes to the house. Hope you'll appreciate them." "Changes?" My voice cracked. "What changes?" "Don't let him get to you," Zoe said firmly. "That's exactly what he wants." I stood up and walked to my bedroom, pulling open my closet. "You're right about one thing, Zoe. I do need a killer dress." "That's my girl," she followed me in. "What about that red one?" "No." I pulled out a sleek black dress with architectural lines, the one I'd worn to receive my first major design award. "This one." Aidan appeared in the doorway. "While you two handle the wardrobe, I'll start preparing the legal documentation." "But Anne, we need to be smart about this." "What do you mean?" "At the party, we need to gather intelligence without showing our hand." He loosened his tie further. "Watch their interactions, listen to conversations. The more ammunition we have, the stronger our case." "And the blueprints?" Zoe asked. "If, and only if, you can access that hidden compartment without being noticed," Aidan stressed. "No unnecessary risks." I nodded, running my hand over the dress's fabric. "I designed that pantry. I know every inch of it." "There's something else," Aidan said, his expression serious. "I did some digging into Violet's background. Her mother, Francesca, is loaded. Old money. She's been bankrolling their lifestyle." "Including my house?" I felt my blood pressure rising. "Most likely. But here's the interesting part. Francesca has a reputation for being extremely particular about her family's image. Any hint of scandal could make her pull her support," I finished, understanding dawning. Zoe grinned. "Now that's what I call leverage." I walked back to the living room, picking up the invitation. The gold lettering seemed to mock me less now. "So we go to this party. We gather evidence. We find the blueprints. And then we hit them where it hurts," Aidan said. "Legally and socially. But first," Zoe held up my phone, "we need to reply to Malik's text." I took the phone, thinking carefully before typing. "Looking forward to it. Can't wait to see what you've done with my design." "Perfect," Zoe said. "Just the right amount of bite." As I hit send, I noticed my hands weren't shaking anymore. For the first time since the divorce, I felt in control. The house I'd poured my soul into wasn't just a building. It was my legacy, my creation. And I was going to take it back. "One more thing," Aidan said, gathering his documents. "Remember, at the party, you're not the victim. You're the architect who's about to rebuild her life, starting with reclaiming what's rightfully hers." I looked at my reflection in the window, imagining myself in that black dress walking through my front door again. They won't know what hit them. The sound of laughter and clinking glasses drifted through my front door. No, their front door now. I smoothed down my black dress and took a deep breath. Ready? Aidan squeezed my arm reassuringly. As I'll ever be. We stepped inside and my heart clenched. The entryway I'd designed to feel warm and welcoming now felt foreign. Violet had replaced my carefully chosen artwork with generic modern pieces, and the walls were painted a stark white instead of the soft cream I'd selected. "Anne," Malik's voice boomed across the foyer. "You came!" He approached us, champagne glass in hand, looking exactly as I remembered, tall, charming, and completely full of himself. "Wouldn't miss it," I said, accepting a glass from a passing server. "The place looks different." "Violet has excellent taste," he said, glancing around proudly. "She's really made it her own." "I can see that." I took a sip of champagne to hide my expression. "Anne, darling." Violet appeared, wearing a dress that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. "So brave of you to come." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "Violet," I nodded. "Interesting choice with the wall colour." "Oh, that dreary cream had to go. It was so provincial." She linked her arm through Malik's. "We're giving the whole house a modern update. In fact, everyone, gather round." My stomach dropped as guests congregated in the living room. Violet clinked her glass with a silver spoon. "Malik and I have an announcement," she trilled. "We're completely renovating the kitchen next month. No offence to the original design, but it's just so basic." I felt Aidan tense beside me. The kitchen had been my masterpiece, inspired by years of studying European architecture. "Actually," I spoke up, my voice steady, "that kitchen won a regional design award last year." "Oh?" Violet's smile turned predatory. "Well, awards aren't everything, are they? Malik, darling, tell them about our plans." Malik cleared his throat. "Yes, well, as the owner of this house, I think it's time for some significant changes. The current design is, let's say, outdated." The room fell silent. Everyone knew I'd designed the house. Outdated? I stepped forward. "That kitchen was featured in Architectural Digest 3 months ago." "Was it?" Violet's voice dripped with false surprise. "Must have missed that issue. Anyway, we've already hired a new architect, someone with a more contemporary vision." I felt the room spinning slightly, but then caught sight of the pantry door behind them. The blueprints were still there, waiting. "Well," I raised my glass, "here's to new beginnings. Mind if I use the powder room? For old time's sake?" "Of course," Violet waved vaguely, "though we're renovating that too." I slipped away, making my way through the crowd. Instead of turning toward the powder room, I ducked into the kitchen. It was empty. Everyone was still listening to Violet's renovation plans. The pantry door opened silently. At least they hadn't changed the hinges I'd specifically ordered to prevent squeaking. Inside, everything looked the same. I ran my fingers along the back wall, finding the nearly invisible seam. Looking for something. I whirled around. Francesca, Violet's mother, stood in the doorway, elegant in a tailored suit. "Mrs. Ramirez," I said, heart pounding. "I was just examining the pantry my daughter plans to demolish." She stepped inside, closing the door behind her. "Interesting timing." "I designed this house," I said simply. "Every inch of it." "Yes," she said, studying me. "I've seen the magazine features. Tell me, Miss Anne, what really brings you here tonight?" Before I could answer, the pantry door opened again. Violet stood there, face flushed with champagne and triumph. "Mother, what are you doing in here with her?" "Just chatting about architecture," Francesca said smoothly. "Your former sister-in-law has quite the reputation in the field." "Former is the key word," Violet snapped. "This is my house now, my kitchen, my pantry." "Is it?" I couldn't help asking. "Do you have the deed?" Violet's eyes narrowed. "Malik handles all that boring paperwork. But make no mistake, everything here belongs to us now. You're just a guest, a rather unwelcome one." I stepped out of the pantry, pausing beside her. "We'll see about that." As I walked away, I heard Francesca say quietly, Violet, dear, do try to show some class. I found Aiden by the front door. We need to leave. Now. Did you get them? No, I whispered. But I will. And I just met someone who might be very interested in the truth about her daughter's new house. Outside, the night air cleared my head. I looked up at my beautiful house, now lit up like a stage set for someone else's life. They're going to destroy it, I said. No, Aiden replied firmly. They're going to try, but first they'll have to get through us. You're not going to believe what I found. Aiden burst into my office Monday morning, waving a stack of papers. My latest project designs scattered as he dropped the documents on my desk. Please tell me it's good news, I said, straightening the blueprints for the downtown cultural centre I'd been working on. Better than good. He spread out several documents. Remember how Malik claimed he contributed financially to the house construction? How could I forget? He waved his checkbook around in court like it was proof of ownership. Well, look at this. Aiden pointed to a bank statement. The money he claimed to have invested. It came from a transfer from Violet's account, 3 days before he made the contribution. I leaned forward. What are you saying? I'm saying Malik committed fraud during the divorce proceedings. He presented false evidence about his financial contribution to the house. My hands shook as I examined the documents. How did you get these? Let's just say Violet's previous bank manager owes me a favour. Aiden loosened his tie. But that's not all. Look at the dates on these construction permits. I scanned the papers, my architect's eye catching the discrepancies immediately. These were filed before Malik and I even met. Exactly. You designed and started the approval process for that house while you were single. His name isn't on any of the original documentation. My phone buzzed. A text from Zoe. Turn on the local news. Now. I grabbed the remote for my office TV, flipping to Channel 5. My breath caught as I saw Malik standing at a podium, Violet by his side. Proud to announce our donation of the property for the new community centre, he was saying. This house, which I helped design and build, that lying bastard, I whispered, will be transformed into a space that serves our entire community, Malik continued, beaming at the cameras. Aiden was already on his phone. Yes, I need an emergency injunction. Property dispute. Yes, I understand it's unusual. I couldn't tear my eyes from the screen. Violet was nodding along, playing the role of supportive wife perfectly, but something in her expressions seemed off. Got it, Aiden hung up. We have a hearing tomorrow morning, but Anne, we need those blueprints. Without them, it's just circumstantial evidence. They're planning to donate my house? My voice cracked. They can't do that. Actually, they can't, not legally. But they're trying to make it impossible for you to fight back without looking like the villain who stopped a community centre from being built. My phone buzzed again. An unknown number. I answered hesitantly. Ms. Anne, a familiar voice said. This is Francesca Ramirez. I put the phone on speaker. Yes? I saw my daughter and son-in-law's little press conference. I thought you should know. Violet came to me last week asking for $20 million for this community centre project. Aiden and I exchanged looks. And? I prompted. And I denied her request, which means they're announcing a project they can't actually fund. Francesca's voice was steel. I don't appreciate being manipulated, especially not by my own daughter. Mrs. Ramirez, why are you telling me this? Because I've seen the architectural magazines featuring your work. That house is art. And I don't support vandalism, social or otherwise. She paused. Check your email. I'm sending you something that might help. The call ended. Seconds later, my email pinged. I opened the attachment and gasped. What is it? Aiden leaned over my shoulder. Security camera footage from my house, from last night. I played the video, showing Malik and Violet in a heated argument in the kitchen. I don't care what it takes, Malik was saying. We need that money. The contractors are asking questions about the payments. Mother won't budge, Violet snapped, and we can't sell the house because of that stupid deed issue you created. Then we donate it. Make it impossible for your mother, or Anne, to fight back without looking terrible. I stopped the video, feeling sick. They're desperate. They're scared. Aidan corrected. And desperate people make mistakes. Big ones. My office door opened and Zoe rushed in. I just saw the news. Please tell me we're not letting them get away with this. We're not, I said, standing up. But I need to get into that house one more time. Tonight. Anne, Aidan warned. They'll be at the press dinner, I cut him off. The house will be empty. And I still have a key. That's breaking and entering, he protested. Not if I can prove I'm still the legal owner. I gathered the documents he'd brought. Besides, I'm not breaking anything. I'm just going to retrieve my property from my pantry. Zoe grinned. I'll drive. This is a terrible idea, Aidan sighed. I'll be parked around the corner with the engine running. Just be careful. I looked at the TV where they were replaying Malik's smug announcement. Oh, I will be. But they won't. The house looked different in the darkness. More like the home I remembered. Zoe killed the headlights as we pulled up around the corner. Security system? She whispered. I designed it, I said, punching in the code I'd hardwired years ago. They never changed it. The door opened silently. My heels clicked against the marble flooring as I made my way to the kitchen, Zoe close behind. The moonlight streaming through the windows cast long shadows across the countertops. A car door slammed outside. Shit! Zoe hissed. Someone's here. We ducked behind the kitchen island as voices approached. The front door opened. Mother, this is completely unnecessary, Violet's voice echoed through the foyer. The press dinner doesn't start for another hour, which gives us plenty of time to discuss this ridiculous community centre scheme of yours. Francesca's heels clicked across the floor. Kitchen, now. My heart pounded as they entered the kitchen. From our hiding spot, I could see their reflections in the window. I don't understand why you're so upset, Violet said. It's a charitable donation. With money you don't have, for a house you might not legally own. Francesca's voice was sharp. Do you think I'm stupid, Violet? Of course not, but I've seen the deed issues, I've seen the original building permits, and I've seen enough of your husband's financial records to know you're both in trouble. Zoe squeezed my arm. We needed to move, but we were trapped. What are you talking about? Violet's voice wavered. The contractors Malik hired for your renovations. They called my office today, demanding payment for work they did months ago, work that was supposed to be paid for with my money. Money I never agreed to give you. That's impossible. Malik said... Malik says a lot of things, doesn't he? Francesca interrupted. Just like he said he helped design this house? Tell me, did you know your husband can barely read a blueprint? Silence filled the kitchen. I held my breath. I had my own architects review this house, Francesca continued. It's brilliant work. Every detail perfectly planned. The kind of design that takes years of experience. Are you really going to let your husband destroy it for a publicity stunt? It's not a stunt, Violet protested weakly. You need to stop lying. Francesca's voice turned ice cold. To me, to the public, and to yourself. Where did the money really go, Violet? More silence. Mother, please. No, I'm done. Either you tell me the truth right now, or I go directly to the press with what I know. A sob escaped Violet. Malik's been gambling. The contractors, the renovations. It was all a cover. He needed the house as collateral for loans. My hand flew to my mouth. Zoe's eyes widened. And the community centre donation, Francesca pressed. We thought, if we announced it publicly, you'd have to fund it, to save face. The sound of a hand hitting marble made me jump. You thought you could manipulate me, your own mother. We're desperate. The loan sharks are threatening Malik and... Enough. Francesca's voice was final. You have 24 hours to come clean about everything, or I will, starting with calling Anne's lawyer. You wouldn't dare. Try me. I won't have my family's name dragged through the mud because you married a con artist. Footsteps moved toward the door. And Violet, don't bother coming to the press dinner. I'll handle the media myself. The front door slammed. Seconds later, we heard Violet's heels clicking rapidly across the floor, followed by another slam. Zoe and I waited several minutes before emerging from our hiding spot. Holy shit, Zoe breathed. The pantry, I said. moving quickly. Before anyone comes back. The hidden compartment opened easily. Inside, exactly where I'd left them, were the original blueprints and all the documentation. As I pulled them out, something else caught my eye. A small notebook. "What's that?" Zoe asked. I flipped it open and felt my blood run cold. It was Malik's gambling ledger, complete with dates, amounts, and the names of his bookies. "Evidence," I whispered. "Let's go." We slipped out the back door just as another car pulled into the driveway. From the shadows, we watched Malik rush inside, looking panicked. Aiden was waiting around the corner, engine running. We jumped in. "Did you get them?" he asked. I held up the blueprints and the notebook. "We got so much more than that." "What do you mean?" "Let's just say," I smiled grimly, "we're not the only ones planning to take them down." As we drove away, I watched my house disappear in the rearview mirror. For the first time since this all began, I felt certain I would see it again. This time, on my own terms. "This is a disaster," Malik's voice echoed through Aiden's office speakerphone. "The contractors are threatening to put liens on the house." I sat quietly in the corner, listening to the conference call Aiden had arranged. Zoe squeezed my hand as Violet's voice joined in. "Malik, shut up," she hissed. "Mr. Aiden, surely we can reach some arrangement." "Well," Aiden leaned back in his chair, "that depends on whether you're prepared to be honest about the situation." "What situation?" Malik asked. "We own the house fair and square." "Really?" Aiden shuffled some papers. "Because I have here a rather interesting gambling ledger, several fraudulent loan documents, and proof that you lied about your financial contributions during the divorce proceedings." Silence. "That's private property," Malik finally sputtered. "Actually," I spoke up, "it was found in my house, in a compartment I designed and built, making it my property." "Anne," Malik's voice cracked, "you're there." "She's here," Aiden confirmed, "along with her original blueprints, building permits, and a very interesting video provided by your mother-in-law, Violet." "Mother?" Violet gasped. "She wouldn't—" "Oh, but she did," I said. "Right after you tried to manipulate her into funding your fake community centre." The office door opened and Francesca walked in, right on cue. "Actually, I'm here too." "Mother, please," Violet begged. "We can explain." "Save it," Francesca cut her off. "I've seen enough. The only question now is whether you want to handle this quietly or let it become very, very public." Aiden pulled out a document. "We have a proposal. Anne regains full ownership of the house. In exchange, we don't pursue criminal charges for fraud or report Malik's illegal gambling activities to the authorities." "You can't prove anything," Malik said weakly. "The loan sharks you owe money to might disagree," I replied. "Should we call them?" More silence. "You have 10 minutes to decide," Aiden said. "After that, we start making calls." "This is blackmail," Violet protested. "No." Francesca's voice was steel. "This is consequences. You tried to steal a house through fraud and deception. You attempted to manipulate me into funding your schemes, and now you're going to make this right." "Or what?" Violet challenged. "Or I release everything to the press. Your choice." I heard muffled arguing on the other end of the line. "Fine," Malik finally said. "We'll sign whatever you want." "Excellent choice." Aiden pushed a button on his phone. "The courier outside your door has the papers. Sign them. Now." "You planned this whole thing?" Violet sounded defeated. "No," I stood up. "You planned this the moment you decided to take what wasn't yours." We waited in tense silence until Aiden's phone pinged with photos of the signed documents. "Congratulations, Anne," he smiled. "The house is yours again." "This isn't over," Violet threatened. "Oh, but it is," Francesca interrupted. "Because if either of you comes near that house again, everything goes public. And Violet, don't bother coming home. Your things will be sent to you." The line went dead. I slumped in my chair, exhausted. "I can't believe it's really over." "Not quite," Francesca turned to me. "Those contractors still need to be paid. Consider it my apology for my daughter's behaviour." She pulled out a checkbook. "And perhaps we could discuss some future projects? I've been impressed with your work." I... Thank you, I managed. Don't thank me, she wrote out the check. Just promise me one thing, don't let them change a single thing about that kitchen. It's magnificent. After she left, Zoe hugged me tight. You did it. We did it, I corrected, looking at Aidan. All of us. Well, he gathered the papers. Shall we go see your house? The drive felt surreal. When we pulled up, the evening sun was hitting the windows just right, making them glow like they used to. I walked up the path, key in hand. Inside, despite Violet's changes, it still felt like home. I ran my hand along the kitchen counter, remembering every decision that went into its design. What are you going to do first? Zoe asked. I looked around at the stark white walls and generic art. Paint, I said firmly. Definitely paint. And then? I smiled, thinking of the blueprints safely tucked away in my bag. Then, I'm going to make it even better than before. Because this time, it's not just a house I designed, it's a house I fought for. Aidan raised an eyebrow. Should I be worried about more secret compartments? Maybe just one or two, I laughed, feeling truly light for the first time in months. After all, you never know when you might need them. The paint fumes are getting to my head, Zoe complained, rolling another stripe of warm cream across the living room wall. But I have to admit, this colour is way better than that stark white Violet chose. I stepped back to admire our progress. 3 days of painting had almost erased every trace of Violet's modern update. My phone buzzed. A text from Aidan. Turn on the news. Now. Oh God, what now? I grabbed the remote. The local news anchor's voice filled the room. In a shocking development, prominent real estate developer Malik Ray has been arrested on charges of fraud and illegal gambling. Zoe dropped her paint roller. Holy shit. The camera cut to footage of Malik being led out of his office in handcuffs, Violet trailing behind him in tears. According to sources, the anchor continued, Mr. Ray had accumulated substantial gambling debts and attempted to use fraudulent property documents as collateral for loans. Did you know about this? Zoe asked. No, I whispered, but I'm betting Francesca did. As if on cue, my doorbell rang. Francesca stood there, impeccable as always. May I come in? I believe I owe you an explanation. I led her to the kitchen, now restored to its original glory, and put on coffee. I assume you've seen the news, she said, accepting a cup. Did you turn him in? Not directly. She stirred her coffee carefully. I simply made sure certain information reached the right people. The Gambling Commission has been investigating him for months. They just needed a push in the right direction. And Violet? My daughter, Francesca sighed, is learning some hard lessons about choices and consequences. She's currently in my guest house contemplating her future. The doorbell rang again. This time it was Aidan, clutching a newspaper. Have you seen... He stopped short at the sight of Francesca. Ah, I suppose you have. Mrs. Ramirez was just explaining her role in recent events, I said. Speaking of which, Francesca pulled out an envelope. I have a proposition for you, Anne. My foundation is planning to build a real community centre. We need an architect who understands both beauty and functionality. I opened the envelope. The project specifications made my heart race. This is ambitious, I said, scanning the details. Yes, well, unlike my former son-in-law's fake proposal, this one comes with actual funding. She smiled. And complete creative control. I'd be honoured, I said. But why me? Because you fought for what was right, not what was easy. She stood up. The contractors will be here tomorrow to undo any damage done to your house. Consider it part of your commission. After she left, Aidan examined the contract. This is legitimate and generous. I can't help feeling a little sorry for Violet, Zoe said, returning to her painting. Don't, Aidan warned. The police found evidence she was fully aware of Malik's schemes. She chose her path. My phone buzzed again. A text from Violet. I hope you're happy. You've ruined everything. I showed it to Aidan and Zoe. Are you going to respond? Zoe asked. Actually, yes. I typed quickly. I didn't ruin anything. I just took back what was mine. Good luck with your fresh start. Classy, Aidan nodded. Now, about these renovation plans. We spread the blueprints across the kitchen island, my original designs plus the new improvements I'd been sketching. See this? I pointed to a modification for the back garden. It's going to be a workspace where I can meet with clients, complete with a view of the city. Perfect for planning that community centre. Zoe grinned. The doorbell rang a third time. This time it was a delivery man with a large package from Francesca. Inside was a framed copy of my house's original blueprint, with a note. To remind you that the best designs come from the heart, not from deception. Looking forward to our collaboration. I hung it in the entryway, right where Violet's generic art had been. You know what this calls for? Zoe disappeared into the kitchen and returned with wine glasses. A proper housewarming. A real one this time. As we toasted, I looked around at my home, truly mine again. The walls were half-painted, drop cloths covered the floors, and paint supplies were everywhere. But it felt more perfect than when it was pristinely staged for Violet's party. To karma, Aidan raised his glass. To justice, Zoe added. To home, I said softly. And to new beginnings. My phone buzzed one final time, a news alert. Local architect to design revolutionary community centre. Below was a quote from Francesca. We believe in building communities through honesty and vision, not deception and greed. I smiled, thinking of the blueprints for both projects, my restored home and the new centre, waiting on my desk. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying what others have built, but about creating something even better from the ruins they left behind. And this, I gestured to the soaring glass walls of the community centre's main hall, is where local artists can display their work. Francesca nodded approvingly as we walked through the nearly completed building. You've outdone yourself, Anne. The natural light is perfect. Just wait until you see the rooftop garden, I led her toward the elevator. We've incorporated sustainable design elements that... My phone buzzed. A news notification. Malik Ray sentenced to 5 years for fraud. Francesca noticed my expression. You saw? Yes. I pocketed my phone. Zoe texted earlier. She was at the courthouse. Said Violet didn't even show up for the sentencing. My daughter is in Europe attempting to reinvent herself. Francesca's tone was dry. Away from the scandal, as she puts it. The elevator opened to reveal the rooftop garden, my favourite part of the design. Living walls burst with colour, and carefully planned seating areas invited conversation and contemplation. This reminds me of your house, Francesca observed, the way you blend function with beauty. Speaking of which, I pulled out a folder. I have something to show you. Inside were the plans for my next project, converting part of my home into a mentoring space for young architects. Using your experience to help others, she smiled. Perfect karma. Mrs. Ramirez, a contractor jogged up to us. The press is here for the preview tour. Are you ready? Francesca asked me. I straightened my jacket. Lead the way. Downstairs, reporters and photographers filled the entrance hall. Aidan stood among them, giving me a thumbs up. He'd helped draft all the contracts for this project, ensuring everything was transparent and legitimate, the opposite of Malik's scheme. Ladies and gentlemen, Francesca addressed the crowd. Welcome to the Future Arts Community Centre. Our architect, Anne, will guide you through the space. As I led the tour, explaining each carefully designed element, I caught glimpses of my own journey in the building's features. The resilient materials, the thoughtful spaces, the way light and shadow played together, all of it reflected not just architectural principles, but life lessons. And finally, I said, reaching the rooftop, this garden represents our commitment to growth and renewal. Ms. Anne, a reporter raised her hand. Is it true this project was born from the scandal involving your ex-husband's fraudulent community centre proposal? I met Francesca's eye across the crowd. This project was born from the belief that good design, like good character, stands the test of time. What others intended for deception, we've transformed into something authentic. After the tour, Aidan joined me by the living wall. Quite a difference from that press conference where Malik announced his fake donation. Speaking of differences, I checked my watch. I need to get home. The students will be arriving soon. Still can't believe you're teaching now, too, he grinned. More like sharing battle stories, I laughed. Design tips and legal advice, thanks to you. At home, my newly renovated workspace was ready for its first mentoring session. The original blueprint still hung in the entryway, but now it was joined by photos of the community centre's construction. A reminder that something beautiful can rise from the ashes of betrayal. The doorbell rang. Zoe arrived with coffee for everyone, followed by 5 eager architecture students. Welcome, I said, leading them to the workspace overlooking the city. Today we're going to talk about designing with purpose and how every choice you make tells a story. Is it true, one student asked, that you designed this house and the new community centre? Yes, I smiled, and they're both part of the same lesson. When someone tries to take what you've built, build something even better. Even after everything that happened with your ex-husband? Another student pressed. Especially after that. I pulled out my sketching materials. Because architecture isn't just about buildings, it's about creating spaces where truth and beauty can thrive. As the session began, I caught sight of my reflection in the window. Behind me, students bent over their drawings, Zoe arranged coffee cups, and the city stretched out below. A canvas of endless possibilities. My phone buzzed one last time, a message from Francesca. Board approved your proposal for the Youth Arts program at the centre. Ready when you are. I texted back, already designing it in my head. Looking around at my restored home, now filled with new purpose and energy, I realised something profound. Sometimes losing what you love leads you to build something even more meaningful. Not just with bricks and mortar, but with wisdom, strength, and the power of second chances. All right, I turned to my students. Let's talk about building foundations that last.
My name is Mary Brown. I've been working as a receptionist at St. Mary's Regional Hospital in suburban Columbus, Ohio for 8 years now. I'm 38 years old. People often say I have a gentle and reserved personality, but when it comes to my 6-year-old son Jacob, I'm ready to face any challenge. These days, it's just my son and me. But I remember the days with my husband Matthew as clearly as if they were yesterday, even though it's been 10 years since we first met. It was an ordinary spring afternoon. While I was organizing insurance documents at the reception desk, a young man was brought into the emergency room with an injury to his right arm from a construction site accident. That encounter would change my life forever. Matthew Brown was 30 years old at the time. As a construction site supervisor, he was always strict about safety management. That day, he had been checking the scaffolding himself to ensure the safety of new workers when he had a minor fall. "Are you all right?" I asked, and despite wincing in pain, Matthew gave me a gentle smile. "Thank you, but this injury isn't anything serious." The next 2 years of dating were like a dream. Matthew was sincere and always thoughtful of others. On weekends, we enjoyed picnics at the local park and participated in church volunteer activities together. Our wedding was small but heartwarming. We exchanged vows at First Presbyterian Church, surrounded by close friends and family. Matthew's mother, Carol, appeared to bless our marriage and even paid for the ceremony. "Mary, I'm so happy to welcome you as my son's wife." Looking back now, perhaps there was something dark lurking behind Carol's smile that day. But at the time, I couldn't notice it. A year after our marriage, our son Jacob was born. Taking after his father's gentle nature, he showed a particular interest in construction machinery. On holidays, Matthew would often take Jacob to the park near his construction site to watch the heavy equipment from a distance. "Look, Jacob. That's where they're building a new shopping mall. Daddy is helping create a place where everyone can shop safely and happily." Matthew would beam with pride seeing his son's eyes light up. His dream was to own his construction company someday. He worked diligently toward that dream every day. His subordinates trusted him deeply, and his safety management was highly regarded within the company. On weekends, we enjoyed shopping as a family at the local Kroger, attended church on Sundays, and participated in community potluck parties afterward. Those were ordinary days filled with genuine happiness. No one could have imagined that this peaceful daily life would suddenly come to an end. That day started like any other autumn morning. After seeing Jacob off to school, I began my work at the hospital reception. Matthew was supposed to be conducting his usual safety checks at the new shopping mall construction site. Around 2 p.m., the emergency room phone rang with the first report of a serious accident at a construction site. At that point, we didn't even know who the victim was. But an inexplicable anxiety began to spread through my heart. Soon after, the sound of ambulance sirens echoed through the hospital corridors. A nurse colleague rushed to me with a pale face. "Mary, it's Matthew." From that moment, my world began to crumble. According to the site report, after the lunch break, the scaffolding Matthew was inspecting suddenly collapsed. His safety belt had been cut, and he fell from the 14th floor. It was unnatural. Far too unnatural. Matthew was always stringent about safety management. Every morning, he personally checked all safety equipment and required workers to conduct thorough inspections. A scaffolding collapse was unthinkable at his site. There appeared to be cut marks on the safety belt. The police said. But at that time, I didn't even have the capacity to understand what those words meant. Carol was surprisingly calm. "Leave everything to me," she said, efficiently handling everything from funeral arrangements to insurance procedures. She seemed more like a business professional than a mother who had lost her son. Jacob couldn't accept his father's death. Did Daddy go to work again? When is Daddy coming home? Can't we go to the amusement park like Daddy promised? Every night, I cried watching my son's sleeping face, feeling lost about how to go on living. Financial reality hit us like a tidal wave. Mortgage payments, Jacob's school fees, daily living expenses. My hospital's salary couldn't possibly cover it all. Matthew's life insurance should have helped, but somehow the paperwork Carol was handling had gone missing. "Don't worry, Mary. Come to my house," Carol suggested. "It doesn't make sense for me to live alone in that big house. And it's close to Jacob's school." That proposal seemed like our only hope, as we were grasping at straws. On moving day, Carol's house in suburban Columbus was an impressive single-family home that exuded wealth. The well-maintained garden was overflowing with seasonal flowers, creating an elegant atmosphere. But Jacob seemed uneasy. "Mommy, are we going to live here?" I squeezed my son's hand tightly as he asked in a small voice. The first signs of something wrong appeared that very day. "Let's put away these photos," Carol said, pointing to our precious pictures of Matthew. "It's better to store away painful memories." After that, My unease grew as Carol rushed to dispose of Matthew's belongings and obsessively checked documents. Particularly disturbing was seeing her searching through piles of papers in Matthew's study late into the night. But at that time, I still didn't understand. This was just the beginning of hell. Strangely, Carol intercepted all communications from the police investigating Matthew's construction site accident. "You focus on overcoming your grief," she would say. At the memorial service at First Presbyterian Church, Carol was the center of sympathetic attention. Everyone praised her. What a strong person, taking care of her daughter-in-law and grandson even after losing her son. However, the moment we left the church, Carol's attitude completely changed. I'll never forget the cold look she gave in the car. Now the real work begins. We would soon learn the meaning of those words. A week after moving into Carol's house, our slave-like existence began. "You're both useless. I won't tolerate freeloaders." We would be woken by Carol's cold voice while it was still dark outside. Even Jacob was forcibly dragged from his bed, his small body trembling. Freeloaders. Work every day. This wasn't just helping with housework. It was systematic abuse, seemingly designed to thoroughly exhaust us. Mornings began with collecting fallen leaves in the garden. In the biting November wind, we would kneel to pick up leaves one by one. Jacob's small hands would freeze. But we weren't allowed to rest. "There are still leaves over there." Carol would watch us constantly from the second-floor window. Mornings were for house cleaning. But this wasn't ordinary cleaning. The same spots, over and over again. No matter how many times I mopped the floor, I would always be ordered to do it again. Matthew's old study, in particular, required an obsessive level of cleanliness. Take all the books out and wipe each spine. Clean the dust from the shelf gaps with cotton swabs. Check between the wall and bookshelf, down to the smallest details. Lunch had to be eaten in 15 minutes. Not in the kitchen, but in a corner of the garage, hurriedly eating cold sandwiches. Warm meals had become a luxury. Afternoons were filled with more gardening and deep cleaning. Moving heavy furniture, pulling up carpets, wiping walls, polishing windows. My arms would shake, my back screaming in pain. That pace is too slow. It's hard enough just feeding you. Without Matthew's income, you should at least do this much. The work didn't end at night. Housework continued until 10 or 11 p.m. Carol was particularly obsessed with organizing the storage room. Open all the boxes and check the contents. Don't throw away any old documents. I need to check them. Be especially careful with photographs. Jacob's behavior began changing day by day. My once bright and active son became quiet at school and stopped playing with friends. His teacher, Mrs. Johnson, called. Recently, Jacob often falls asleep in class. He's also not turning in his homework. I began hearing my son's muffled crying at night more frequently. Seeing him sleep clutching Matthew's photo under the covers broke my heart a little more each time. But we couldn't escape. Carol controlled my bank passbook and monitored my cell phone. Contact with friends and family was restricted. We were essentially under house arrest. Meanwhile, Carol's suspicious behavior became more noticeable. Late at night, sounds of searching in the study. Thin beams of light would leak into the hallway, accompanied by the sound of shuffling papers. Sometimes, I would hear her talking quietly on the phone. "Haven't you found those documents yet?" "Yes, we still have time." During weekdays while I was working at the hospital, Carol apparently made frequent trips to the bank. Our neighbor Susan told me about this. "Carol's been going to First National Bank a lot lately. She seems to stay for hours." Particularly concerning was her obsession with a specific drawer. The locked bottom drawer of the large wooden desk in the study. Carol checked its key every night. One day, when I was cleaning near that drawer, Carol suddenly came running, her face contorted. "Don't touch that." Her voice carried an intensity I'd never heard before. Fear? Panic? Or anger? Then came the decisive incident. One night, Jacob was suffering from a high fever. As I tried to manage with over-the-counter fever medicine, he nearly lost consciousness. "Please, let me take him to the hospital." Carol coldly responded, "I won't allow such waste. It doesn't matter to me if that child dies." At that moment, something changed within me. This wasn't just abuse. It was part of something more terrifying, a larger plan. Matthew's unnatural accident. The missing insurance money. The suspicious late-night phone calls. The bank visits. And whatever was in that drawer. Everything was starting to connect. As the first anniversary of Matthew's death approached, Carol's behavior became increasingly erratic. She became more aggressive than before, shouting over trivial matters. The sound of her late-night phone conversations became more frequent. "We're running out of time. We have to do something before the anniversary." Then Carol began hastily disposing of documents. The sound of the shredder echoed late into the night, and the smell of burning paper wafted from the backyard. Then came the fateful day. The day before Matthew's first death anniversary. As cold rain fell steadily, Carol left saying, "I have business at the bank." Taking this chance, I made the decision to search the study. The thorough cleaning I'd been forced to do would unexpectedly prove useful. Behind the bookshelf was a hidden safe. Usually, an expensive vase sat there, which we were never allowed to move. I reached out and found it. Old newspaper clippings. Wealthy real estate couple dies, son left behind. In the article was a familiar photo of a young boy. Matthew. And underneath, a stack of court documents. Adoption records. Insurance claim forms. Property title transfer procedures. All forged documents in Carol's handwriting. No way. Just then, the doorbell rang. As I hurriedly replaced the documents and started down the stairs, I heard a male voice from outside. "Columbus Police Department. Is Caroline Williams here?" Then another male voice. "Representative from Bradley and Associates law firm." At that moment, I made eye contact with Carol, who had returned through the back door. "Why are you?" The color drained from her face as her whole body began to shake. "We have a warrant. We're entering to conduct a search." Carol tried to run upstairs, but police officers had already entered through the back door. "Caroline Williams, you're under arrest on suspicion of fraud and attempted murder." One of the officers approached me. Mrs. Brown, we have something your husband Matthew left with us. He handed me a thick envelope with Matthew's handwriting. If anything happens to me. Your husband actually sensed he was in danger a year ago. He left this envelope with us and the law firm. Inside the envelope were astonishing pieces of evidence. Construction site security camera footage. Carol meeting with workers 2 days before the accident. Cash being handed to the safety equipment inspector. And most shocking of all. These are evidence of adoption fraud, the lawyer explained. For the past 20 years, Carol has repeatedly approached wealthy families, orchestrated fake adoptions, and stolen their assets. Matthew discovered he was one of her victims. Matthew's real parents were wealthy real estate company executives. Carol had targeted Matthew, who was set to inherit a vast fortune after losing his parents in an accident at age 3. The police have spent a year investigating similar cases across multiple states. The same pattern in Chicago, Boston. Just then, we heard a noise from upstairs. There stood Jacob in his pajamas, holding a photograph. A commemorative photo from the construction site that had accidentally captured Carol meeting with the workers in the background. Daddy. Large tears fell from my son's eyes. I ran to him and held him tight. All the pain we had endured came flooding out at once. Outside, the rain had stopped, and the sun was peeking through for the first time in what felt like forever. This was the beginning of the end. And the beginning of our new life. I raised him. He's my son. Carol's screams echoed through the quiet suburban neighborhood as she resisted the police while being handcuffed. 20 years. For 20 years, as my son. In that moment, I felt I saw Carol's true face for the first time. A woman who played the perfect philanthropist while harboring unfathomable darkness inside. Tormented by infertility, she had developed a twisted hatred for wealthy families, eventually willing to take lives. As we watched the police car drive away, Jacob whispered, "Daddy protected us, didn't he?" I couldn't stop the tears that welled up at those words. As the investigation progressed, the importance of Matthew's evidence became clear. He had noticed Carol's suspicious behavior. The late-night phone calls. Unusual bank transactions. And newspaper articles about past adoptions. He had carefully investigated and recorded everything, entrusting it to a reliable lawyer. Your husband was extremely careful and wise, Bradley, the lawyer, said. If he had confronted her directly, Carol would have destroyed all evidence and possibly harmed your family. That's why he prioritized gathering solid evidence. The truth about Matthew's family inheritance also came to light. This is the detailed list of assets that should rightfully be inherited by your family. The document the lawyer presented showed amounts far beyond our imagination. A house in an upscale neighborhood. Multiple real estate investments. And shares in the construction company Matthew's father had left behind. Matthew knew. He left these materials with us in case anything happened to him. The police investigation revealed the full extent of Carol's crimes. In Chicago, she had deceived a wealthy family's only son. In Boston, she had targeted a real estate tycoon's orphan child. Each time, she posed as an adoptive parent to extract their fortune, staging fake accidents or sudden deaths to collect insurance money. It's a despicable method, the detective couldn't hide his anger. Many of the victims were children. It's the worst kind of crime, exploiting trust. The First Presbyterian Church community warmly supported us. "I'm so sorry we didn't know," Susan said tearfully. Behind that elegant demeanor, such horrible things. Church volunteers gathered to help us move to our new home. It was a suburban house that Matthew had secretly purchased, a bright and warm home he had chosen with his son's future in mind. "This is the house Daddy chose for us, Jacob." My son's expression began to regain its brightness, little by little. In the study of our new home, Matthew's final gift awaited us. A thick leather-bound album. Inside were numerous letters, photographs, and words for his son from Matthew. "To my beloved son. If you're reading this letter, I may no longer be in this world. But I want you to remember this. Daddy is always watching over you. I want you to live a happy life with Mommy. And never forget this. Life sometimes brings great trials. But if you live honestly and sincerely, a path will always open up. With love, Daddy." The album's pages sparkled in the setting sun streaming through the window. On weekends, Jacob began playing with his beloved toy construction equipment in the garden. Sometimes friends would come over, filling the air with cheerful voices. While continuing my work at the hospital, I gradually became involved in managing Matthew's construction company. "We want to protect the company, respecting your wishes, ma'am," the veteran employees offered their cooperation. And Matthew's dream of running a safe and honest construction company was surely carried on. In our new home's garden, we planted the type of tree Matthew loved. It's beginning to grow steadily now. When spring comes, it will surely bloom with beautiful flowers. Just like our new life. The bond between mother and son, strengthened through adversity. And the love of a husband who protected us until the very end. All of these will remain forever etched in our hearts as irreplaceable treasures. Our family lives in Woodbury, Minnesota, a peaceful, upscale residential area about a 30-minute drive from Minneapolis. Now that October has arrived, the maple and oak trees are starting to change colors. While it's getting chilly in the mornings and evenings, we're still enjoying pleasant autumn weather during the day. Well-maintained lawns line the streets, and on weekends, you can see residents tending to their gardens. We moved here 5 years ago when my husband Tom was promoted to project manager at his technology company. I work as a real estate agent, and since I started handling properties in this area, I've come to truly appreciate the value of our own home. Our white 2-story house features an open-concept living and dining area, a modern kitchen, and a spacious yard that our daughter Zoe absolutely adores. My annual income of $60,000 helps with the mortgage payments. Lately, many of my mom friends have been coming to me for advice, knowing I'm familiar with the local real estate market. This morning, as usual, I set my alarm for 5:30. While preparing breakfast at the kitchen island, I gaze at the morning sun streaming through the large windows. The orange light warmly illuminates the family photos on the wall. My favorite is from last Christmas, Tom with Zoe laughing on his knee, and me beside them with a happy expression. Next to it hangs a photo from Zoe's kindergarten graduation. Every time I see her in that white dress holding bouquets in both hands, I'm reminded of how moving that day was. As I cook the pancake batter, I mentally organize today's schedule. Morning appointments include 2 new property assessments, followed by an open house in the afternoon. In between, I need to handle Zoe's after-school activities. My mom friends often say, "You're doing so well juggling everything," and I take secret pride in balancing work and family. I'm especially pleased that clients trust me more now, and I'm getting more referrals. "Good morning, Mama." I turn around at Zoe's voice coming down the stairs to find her in her uniform, still looking a bit sleepy. Her navy jumper dress from St. Mary's private school is, as always, perfectly pressed. The school crest on her chest gleams in the morning sun. I'm glad I took extra care ironing it last night. "Good morning, young lady. Let me braid your hair before the pancakes are ready." As I quickly braid Zoe's brown hair, Tom comes downstairs with the newspaper. My husband, now 40, has recently started showing a few gray hairs. He's mild-mannered and especially gentle with our only daughter, Zoe. Though his job involves frequent business trips, he always makes sure to have breakfast with the family when he's home. Even after working late last night, he makes time to be with us in the morning. I love this family-oriented side of Tom. "Good morning, Princess," Tom gently pats Zoe's head. "Looks like it's going to be another wonderful day." "Daddy, are you going away this weekend too?" Zoe shows a worried expression. "No, I'll be home this weekend." "Is there somewhere you'd like to go?" Family breakfast time around the kitchen island. On the table are pancakes drowned in maple syrup, fresh blueberries, and Tom's favorite freshly ground coffee. Through the window, we can see neighborhood children starting their walk to school. Tom reads the newspaper while sipping his coffee, and Zoe carefully cuts her pancakes into small pieces. I watch over them both while preparing tomorrow's lunchbox. Since starting 2nd grade, Zoe has become even more passionate about drawing. During the recent parent-teacher conference, her autumn landscape was displayed in the classroom. I'll never forget how proud she looked when she told me that Ms. Brown, her teacher, had praised her use of colors. While she has a bright and honest personality, she occasionally shows a cautious side that clearly takes after Tom. When I ask about school, she says she always spends recess drawing with her friends. "Zoe," Tom suddenly looked up from his newspaper and turned to our daughter. "Do you remember what to do when getting off the bus?" "Yes." Zoe answered immediately. "Count to 3 before starting to walk." "That's right. It's an important rule Grandpa taught us," Tom continued with a gentle but serious expression. "Always count to 3 after getting off the bus." "Promise?" "I understand, Daddy." Zoe nodded solemnly. Tom's father had worked as a school bus driver for over 30 years. Tom continues to pass on the safety wisdom gained from that experience to his daughter. I've also heard about the importance of this rule many times from my father-in-law. As I listen to Tom's daily ritual of confirming this with Zoe, I remember my late father-in-law's warm smile. After breakfast, while Zoe went upstairs to brush her teeth, Tom came to my side and put his arm around my shoulders. "How about going to see a movie as a family this weekend? It's been a while." "That would be lovely. Zoe will be thrilled. She's been looking forward to that new animated film." Outside, it was gradually getting brighter, and we could see neighborhood children starting to walk down the street. "It's almost time for the school bus." I quickly packed Zoe's lunch box with a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, an apple, and sneaked in one of my homemade cookies as a special treat. Life is busy, but these ordinary morning moments shape our family's happiness. The coffee aroma wafting through the kitchen, the warmth of the morning sun through the windows, and the gentle conversations between Zoe and Tom. Another new day was about to begin. At 3 p.m., warm autumn sunlight streamed through the glass windows of the modern office. I was concentrating on final checks of new property contracts at my desk on the 35th floor. The view of downtown Minneapolis from the high-rise windows is usually pleasant, but today I felt somehow unsettled. After seeing Zoe off this morning, I had handled 3 property assessments back-to-back. I hastily ate a sandwich in my car for lunch, and now I was reviewing these contracts. Piles of documents still waiting to be checked covered my desk. With the settlement deadline next week, overtime seems unavoidable. Ashley, about the Smith family contract. My colleague Jennifer started to speak, but was interrupted by my ringing phone. Looking at the screen, I saw an unfamiliar number. Normally I'd assume it was a client, but for some reason, I felt an inexplicable sense of dread. Sorry, I need to take this call. My hand trembled slightly as I picked up the receiver. Hello? Mama. The voice on the other end was unmistakably Zoe's. But not her usual cheerful voice. It was shaking, as if she might cry. Zoe? What's wrong? The office air conditioning suddenly seemed too loud. The falling leaves outside the window appeared to move in slow motion. Mama, this bus. I'm scared. What? What do you mean? What happened? An icy fear ran down my spine. Zoe had boarded the yellow school bus this morning as usual. School lets out at 3:15 p.m. Why was my daughter scared? The driver. Suddenly, the call cut off. Zoe? Zoe. I desperately called her name, but only heard the mechanical beeping sound. I immediately tried calling back, but got the customer's mobile phone is turned off. Announcement. Ashley, are you all right? Jennifer asked worriedly. She's a mother too. She must have sensed from my expression that something serious had happened. Got a call from my daughter. I need to check with the school. With trembling fingers, I dialed St. Mary's Elementary. My heart raced with each ring. But no one answered. It was after school hours, the office staff had probably already left. Thank you for calling St. Mary's Elementary School. At this time. It was the answering machine. I hurriedly sent Tom an email. Just got a scary call from Zoe. She said something about being scared on the bus. The call cut off. Can't reach the school. After hitting send, I reached for the coffee cup on my desk. The cold coffee seemed to reflect my anxious state. A few minutes later, Tom replied. Zoe's been acting strange lately. Yesterday too, when she got off the bus, she seemed worried about something. I'm heading to the school now. Can you leave work early? She's been acting strange lately. I tried desperately to think back. Come to think of it, these past few days, Zoe's expression did seem clouded. But I'd been too busy to probe deeper. Regret washed over me. Jennifer, I'm sorry. I'll check the remaining documents first thing tomorrow morning. Of course, go ahead. You must be worried about your daughter. I quickly shut down my computer and stuffed the documents into my bag. Outside, the sky was beginning to turn orange, giving me an ominous feeling. While waiting for the elevator, I checked my phone repeatedly. No calls from Zoe. No contact from the school. Where was the bus now? Was Zoe safe? From inside the elevator, I sent another email to Tom. I'm heading there now. I keep trying Zoe's phone but... The moment I hit send, the elevator began its descent from the 35th floor. The usual descent speed now felt unbearably slow. I tapped my foot rapidly while staring at the clock. 3:45 p.m. Normally, Zoe would already be at the bus stop near our house by now. This morning, she had boarded the bus with a smile and a wave, saying, "See you later," as usual. Why had that bus suddenly become scary? Just before the elevator reached the first floor, a new message arrived from Tom. At the school. Got in touch with the vice principal. They're checking the bus status. As I was about to reply, my phone rang again. Another unknown number. My hands were shaking. I was terrified to answer, not knowing who it might be. But it could be Zoe. Taking a deep breath, I held the phone to my ear. Hello, Ashley Parker speaking. Mrs. Parker, this is Officer Murphy from the Woodbury Police Department. Your daughter Zoe has been in an accident. For a moment, I felt my heart stop. I instinctively reached for the cold metal elevator wall for support. Zoe, where? At the Maple Street bus stop. We've called an ambulance, but we need one of the parents to accompany her. I'll be right there. I ran from the lobby to the parking lot. The usually 3-minute journey felt like an eternity. Then an email came from Tom. Heading to the hospital. Zoe was in an accident but she's conscious. Drive carefully. Maple Street bus stop. Where I see Zoe off every morning. When the yellow school bus stops, she always turns back to wave. A peaceful corner of our residential area, surrounded by maple trees in their fall colors. When I arrived at the scene, an ambulance and police cars were already there. The yellow school bus was pulled over to the side of the road, and driver Mr. Johnson was explaining the situation to a police officer. Several parents had gathered with worried expressions. Under the autumn-colored trees, someone could be heard crying softly. According to witnesses, this is what happened. At 3:45 p.m., the school bus arrived at its usual time. As Zoe waited for her turn to get off, someone heard her counting quietly, 3, 2, 1. The safety check habit her father had taught her. The moment she got off the bus, a black SUV approached at high speed. If she hadn't finished counting those 3 seconds, she might have walked right into its path. While a major collision was narrowly avoided, she fell trying to dodge it, hitting her right arm hard. The SUV didn't stop, continuing on its way. The police were recording the partial license plate number and description that witnesses remembered. Ma'am. A paramedic led me to the ambulance. Inside, Zoe lay with a temporary splint. Her uniform was dirty, and her face was pale, but she was fully conscious. Mama. As she called out in a hoarse voice, tears welled up in my eyes. "It's okay, Mama's here." When we arrived at the hospital, Tom was waiting at the emergency entrance. My usually calm husband's face was ashen. "Zoe, Daddy's here." Tom stroked our daughter's cheek with trembling hands. X-rays and detailed examinations began immediately. The diagnosis was a broken right arm and general contusions. Fortunately, there was no damage to internal organs. While waiting in the waiting room for results, Tom was explaining the situation in detail to the police. The vehicle's movements were captured on security cameras, the officer informed us. "It appears to be intentional driving." At those words, Tom's expression changed completely. "This wasn't an accident." My husband whispered in a trembling voice, gripping my hand tightly. Tears welled up in his eyes. "This absolutely wasn't an accident." When we were shown to the white hospital room, Zoe lay in a small bed, cradling her right arm in its cast. Antiseptic had been applied to the scrapes on her face, and a bandage covered her forehead. Yet strangely, her expression was peaceful. "Mama, Papa," Zoe smiled. "I followed the rule properly." At those words, Tom and I exchanged glances. Indeed, without that 3-second rule, the situation could have been much more serious. This small habit, passed down from Tom's father, had saved our daughter's life today. Outside the window, the evening sky had turned blood red. That redness seemed to symbolize our current anxiety and fear. After Zoe had fallen asleep, an officer shared new information in the hallway. The reason for Zoe's anxiety on the bus just before the accident was gradually becoming clear. The black SUV had apparently been following the school bus for several days during dismissal time. Driver Mr. Johnson had also noticed something suspicious and was about to report it to the school. Today, Zoe had noticed the car's presence and called me. "This wasn't professional driving," the officer continued quietly. "It was clearly a crime of personal vendetta." Tom held my shoulder while staring at the hospital room door. Inside, our daughter was sleeping peacefully. But this peace might not last long. Someone had targeted our child with clear intent. Why had this happened? Who would target our child, and why? These unanswerable questions weighed heavily on our hearts. That night, as I dozed on the hospital room's sofa, Tom quietly opened the door and came in. He seemed to have just finished a long discussion with the police. "Ashley, are you awake?" Tom's voice, though tired, carried a sense of urgency. I nodded silently. In the bed, Zoe showed a peaceful sleeping face. The painkillers seemed to be helping considerably with her pain. "They've identified the perpetrator," Tom began quietly, standing by the window and staring at the night view. "They identified the vehicle from security camera footage. And the driver was Mark Winters, Helen's brother-in-law." Helen. That name froze something inside me. She was, if I remembered correctly, the mother of Zoe's classmate, Lily. I thought she was just an ordinary stay-at-home mom I'd see at PTA activities. But why? Her real name was Carol Martin. Tom's voice shook. "She was my ex-girlfriend from college, 15 years ago." I was speechless at this revelation. Tom continued. "Police investigation revealed she'd been living under an alias for the past 5 years. Her psychiatric records showed a history of severe delusional disorder. She had discontinued treatment. Outside, the lights of night patrol police vehicles quietly glowed. Due to the severity of the incident, the hospital had implemented special security measures. On social media, she'd been obsessively collecting photos of our family. Especially pictures of Zoe. The next morning, Detective Murphy visited the hospital room. His expression was even more serious than the night before. "Mark Winters has confessed, and we now see the full picture," the detective began quietly. He was in debt and had been promised $20,000 by his sister-in-law Helen, or rather, Carol. The accident plan was surprisingly meticulous. They had investigated everything: the school bus schedule, Zoe's route home, even the locations of security cameras. It was a planned crime disguised as an accident. But there was an unexpected element. Your daughter counting to 3, this prevented a serious accident. At the detective's words, I found myself pressing my fingers to my eyes. That small habit inherited from Tom's father. Who could have imagined it would save our daughter's life? Subsequent investigation revealed the depth of Carol's abnormal obsession. Her one-year relationship with Tom during college was, for her, the most brilliant period of her life. However, when Tom suddenly ended things citing work priorities, and soon after began dating me, she harbored a deep resentment while starting her life as a teacher. After leaving teaching due to mental health issues, she entered an arranged marriage with her current husband. Though they had Lily after fertility treatments, seeing our family's happy moments on social media further twisted her mind. Particularly, her daughter Lily's existence accelerated her distorted obsession. Lily's grades being lower than Zoe's, repeated defeats at school events, troubles with friendships, everything grew into an enormous grudge within her. A month later, the preliminary hearing was held. When I first faced Carol in court, I was shocked. All traces of the once energetic mom friend had vanished, replaced by an exhausted figure in the defendant's seat. Defendant Carol Martin, how do you plead to the charges? Guilty. Her voice trembled slightly. However, her subsequent testimony chilled us. While playing the role of perfect housewife, she had been planning revenge for over 5 years. She used her daughter Lily to get close to our family, gathered information, and chose the most cruel method. She used her own child as a tool to harm another child. Her twisted psychology froze the gallery. Every time I saw Ashley, I felt sick, she spoke with vacant eyes. The woman who stole my life. The woman who destroyed my happiness with Tom. And her daughter, too perfect. Everything going better than my daughter's. I couldn't stand it. In court, I found myself gripping Tom's hand tightly for the first time. This woman's madness wasn't just a product of chance. Social distortions, the fragility of human relationships, and the importance of mental health care, all these factors had created this tragedy. The verdict sentenced Carol to 7 years in prison and Mark to 3 years. However, the judge's words struck at the essence of this case. The defendant's actions go beyond personal grudge, reflecting a deep darkness in modern society. As we left the courthouse, Stephen, Lily's father, bowed deeply to us. He too was a victim of this incident. 5 years spent unknowing of his wife's double life and past, the emptiness must have been beyond imagination. Back in the hospital room, Zoe happily looked at her classmates' signatures on her right arm cast. Lily's signature was there too. The innocent hearts of children remain untouched by their parents' madness. Papa, Zoe suddenly looked up at Tom. I want to tell Grandpa thank you. At these words, we exchanged glances. This small life was protected by wisdom passed down from the previous generation. And we too must pass this learning on to the next generation. Outside, under new security measures, we could hear school buses carefully departing for afternoon dismissal. While the incident was over, this experience left an indelible lesson for our family and the entire community. I stood by the window, looking up at the evening sky. Unexpected dangers will surely come again. But I believe that family bonds and wisdom passed down through generations will protect us. My name is Amy Brown, and I'm 34 years old. I've been married for 7 years. My husband James is a vice president at an investment advisory firm, and we live with my mother-in-law Margaret in a 50-year-old colonial-style house in an upscale neighborhood of Greenwich, Connecticut. Before marriage, I was a music teacher. The classroom, filled with the sound of my students' piano playing, was my pride and my sanctuary. But after marriage, when my mother-in-law said, "A Brown family wife shouldn't be working," I gave up teaching. Since then, I've lived as a good wife, supporting my husband. My mother Judith lives alone in Boston. My father passed away 5 years ago. Mother is a former emergency room nurse who still volunteers at the hospital. She calls almost every week, saying, "Amy, it's your life, but I chose to be the wife my husband wanted me to be." And in March 2024, our first child was born. Spring rain was falling quietly on the VIP private room at Greenwich Hospital. After 12 hours of labor, a tiny life now rested in my arms. My treasure. I whispered in a hoarse voice, gazing at my newborn daughter. The baby had her father's black hair and my delicate features. James stood by the window, his tall shadow cast against the gray spring sky. My husband was a respected figure in Greenwich society, an investment professional earning $800,000 a year. Now, he seemed somewhat restless, pacing back and forth in the room. Ah, what a beautiful child. There was something artificial about those words. But in my post-delivery euphoria, I couldn't understand the meaning behind that sense of discord. Connecticut's top medical team attended the birth. My mother-in-law Margaret had insisted that the delivery should be worthy of the Brown family name. She elegantly wrapped an Hermes scarf around her neck and muttered, almost to herself, "A girl." The large diamond on her ring sparkled under the fluorescent lights. Unexpected. I saw my mother Judith frown at Margaret's words. Mom, in her practical shoes and well-worn cardigan, was a stark contrast to my mother-in-law in her designer brands. She approached my bedside and gently held my hand. "You did well, Amy." Those words brought tears to my eyes. While the nurses praised my strength in overcoming a difficult delivery, my mother's words carried special weight. But this happy time didn't last long. After returning home, changes began gradually. The nursery surrounded by luxurious pink wallpaper and hand-painted clouds. Little Lily sleeping in her Italian luxury crib. On the surface, it seemed like the most privileged environment possible. But my husband's return time grew later and later each day. Young mothers these days are too soft. In my day, we were much stricter with discipline. The baby's crying is bothersome. Shouldn't we move her to the servants' quarters? My mother-in-law's words grew colder day by day. While struggling with postpartum health issues and sleep deprivation, I desperately pored over parenting books. But no matter how hard I tried, in my mother-in-law's eyes, I was never good enough as a mother. And then came the fateful day. A rainy night on March 21st. 8 p.m., in the second-floor living room. Heavy rain clouds covered the windows outside, and the room was dim. As soft indirect lighting cast gentle shadows, Lily's cry broke the silence. As I tried to nurse her with my exhausted body, my husband's angry shout suddenly rang out. Enough! When James stood up, my heart nearly stopped. I don't want a girl. Get out! Lily, startled by her father's voice, began crying even louder. My hands trembled. James, why? As my voice shook, Margaret stood up beside me, casting a cold glance. Leave immediately. We don't need you in our family. I held Lily tightly with trembling hands. Please, think about the baby. My husband had transformed before my eyes. His profile was unrecognizable as the gentle husband I'd known for 7 years. My mother-in-law's cruel smile. And Lily, crying anxiously. An unreal scene was unfolding before me. The sound of rain against the windows grew stronger, as if foreseeing the trials that would befall us, mother and child. I ran through the rain, holding Lily to my chest, trying to shield her from the rain with my cashmere coat. Without time to call a taxi, I headed straight for the late-night bus terminal bound for Boston. It hadn't even been 2 hours since I fled from my husband. My expensive heels were difficult to walk in and my ankles hurt, but I couldn't stop. Lily was surprisingly quiet. As if understanding the situation, she just pressed her tiny body against my chest, occasionally making small sleeping sounds. Her warmth was my lifeline. On the bus, I desperately held back tears. The streetlights flowing past the window seemed to waver, just like my heart. On the bus seat heading from Greenwich to Boston, 7 years of married life flashed before my eyes. At 2 a.m., I stood frozen at my mother's doorstep. My hair was soaked from the rain, and my once proud dress was wrinkled with rain stains here and there. My makeup must have been ruined, with mascara darkening around my eyes. But Lily alone was warm with my body heat, breathing peacefully. With trembling fingers, I pressed the intercom. The lights came on immediately, and the door opened. Amy. The moment my mother saw me, she seemed to understand everything. Tears were already glistening in her eyes. Come in, come inside. Mother gently led us into the house. As soon as we entered the warm interior, the tears I'd been holding back burst forth. I fell to my knees in the entryway, still holding Lily, and sobbed out loud. I'm sorry. Mom. Words failed me. The tears just wouldn't stop. Take a shower. I'll prepare changes of clothes for the baby. Mother's voice was calm and practical as always. A precise judgment typical of a former emergency room nurse. But there was a warmth in her voice that I didn't usually feel. My mother's house had hardly changed since I left 7 years ago. The old but well-maintained furniture, family photos on the walls, and the faint scent of my father's favorite pipe tobacco. Everything was nostalgic and healing. While I was in the shower, my mother changed Lily's diaper and prepared warm milk. When I got out of the shower, clean pajamas were laid out, as if she had been waiting for my return. That night, my mother listened to me talk all night. From the beginning of my marriage, my relationship with my mother-in-law, to the events of tonight. Mother nodded occasionally but listened without interrupting. On the kitchen table, she had placed her homemade chamomile tea, its gentle aroma helping to ease my tension. And as dawn broke, Mother made her decision. Let's go to a DV shelter. I looked at my mother's face in surprise. But, a shelter, for me. Words failed me. As a wife from a wealthy Greenwich family, the word shelter seemed unfitting. It's dangerous to go back to your house. James isn't in his right mind. You need legal protection. Money and social status don't matter. What's important is yours and Lily's lives. Mother was already reaching for the phone. Having worked as a nurse for over 30 years, she had many connections. Through her hospital work experience, she also had connections with domestic violence support organizations. A few hours later, we headed to a shelter located away from Greenwich. Mother's compact car was different from the Mercedes I was used to, but somehow it felt comfortable. From the outside, the shelter looked like an ordinary apartment building. There were no prominent signs, only security cameras installed. But inside, it was filled with more warmth than I had imagined. Welcome. Director Marion greeted us. Her gentle smile at around 55 years old helped ease some of my tension. With her gray-streaked hair tied back and wearing modest but neat clothing, she exuded a calm trustworthiness. What a beautiful baby. While gently stroking Lily's cheek, Marion continued her careful explanation. Here, your and Lily's safety is our top priority. We can arrange consultations with lawyers, and we have necessary living supplies prepared. Staff are on duty 24 hours a day, so please don't hesitate to ask if you have any concerns. That same day, my mother went out to buy necessities for me. Basic clothing, daily necessities, and childcare items for Lily. Though they were bought from local supermarkets and discount stores rather than department stores or brand shops, they somehow held a special warmth. Tomorrow, I'll introduce you to a trustworthy lawyer. Jessica Watson. She's an expert in women's rights. When Mother said this before leaving that night, I finally realized my situation. This is reality. I had fled from my husband and was in a shelter. The large mansion in Greenwich, the maids, the luxurious life, all were now in the past. But strangely, the fear had faded. Instead, I even felt a kind of liberation. Life in the shelter was completely different from what I had imagined. There were women with similar experiences. Sarah had been a director at a major corporation. Kate was a pediatrician. Jennifer was a housewife. I learned firsthand that violence can happen to anyone, regardless of social status or economic situation. I couldn't believe it at first either, Sarah quietly told me one night while drinking tea in the shared kitchen. You might wonder why someone like me, who became an executive at a company I worked at for 20 years, is in a shelter. But violence has nothing to do with class. Her words struck deep in my heart. Indeed, why was I, who had lived in a Greenwich mansion with a husband earning $800,000 a year, here? The answer was simple. To escape violence. That had nothing to do with social status. Lily thrived even in this environment. Now 3 months old, her expressions had become more varied. Her smile became everyone's source of healing at the shelter. The other residents doted on her as if she were their own grandchild. A baby's smile gives us hope, doesn't it? When my roommate Sarah said this, I wholeheartedly agreed. Just seeing Lily's smile made me feel like I could overcome any difficulty. As promised, Mother visited twice a week without fail. Each time, Lily would happily wave her arms and legs. While holding Lily, Mother would tell stories about when I was a child. You used to smile just like this. Becoming a mother helped me grow too. Now you're having the same experience. Mother's words gave me new insights. Being called a mama is such a happy thing, isn't it? When I confided this to Mother one day, she smiled gently. Yes, it is. That's why you made the right choice. For Lily's sake, and for your own. In twice-weekly counseling sessions, I had time to face my emotions. Anger towards my once kind husband, disappointment at being betrayed, and love that still remained. Everything was intricately tangled. It's natural to have complex feelings. Healing begins with acknowledging them. Jane, the counselor, said this while helping me sort through my feelings. Our sessions always left my heart feeling a little lighter. Gradually, I began to reclaim my life. One day, when I found an old piano in the shelter's common space, my heart filled with nostalgia. Memories of my time as a music teacher came vividly flooding back. I gathered my courage and started giving simple piano lessons to the children at the shelter. At first, just once a week for 30 minutes. But watching the children's eyes shine and fill with the joy of experiencing music, something changed within me. Teacher, please teach us again. Each time I heard those words, I felt new hope sprouting. The old me would have been ridiculed by my Greenwich friends if I said, I'm teaching piano at a shelter. But now it's different. The children's pure joy had become my pride. Mother quietly supported me while watching over my progress. There's no need to rush. Take it one step at a time. A wonderful future is surely waiting for you. With Mother's words in my heart, I grew stronger, slowly but surely. I felt more like myself now than when I was playing the perfect wife in the Greenwich mansion. The sky visible from the shelter window might have been narrower than the one I saw in Greenwich. But that sky seemed filled with infinite possibilities. Holding Lily close, I whispered in my heart. This is our new beginning. As our life in the shelter was approaching the 1-year mark, tragedy struck suddenly. A body has been discovered in the lake. Early morning, a phone call from the police woke me up. Having just arrived at the guest room in the brown house, Lily was sleeping peacefully beside me. It was still before dawn, and the window outside was tinged with a faint purple. We have confirmed the identity as James Brown. At those words, the receiver nearly fell from my hand. The body discovered this morning in Greenwich Lake was undoubtedly my husband's. When we arrived at the lakeside, several police vehicles and ambulances were parked. Early summer mist drifted over the lake's surface, creating an otherworldly scene. Mother embraced me from behind. "Stay strong, Amy." The body had already been removed, but his belongings remained by the lakeside. A familiar expensive suit jacket. The gold watch he always wore. And an envelope. "Ma'am, this suicide note was found at the scene." The envelope handed to me by the police officer had, "To Amy," written in familiar handwriting. My hands trembled. Taking a deep breath, I opened the envelope. "Amy, please forgive me. I was a fool." James's final words danced before my eyes. He had been completely deceived by a woman named Carol Smith. Last spring, she had approached him with a calculated plan. Appearing as a new employee at the investment advisory firm, she played the role of a brilliant and ambitious young employee, gradually capturing James's heart. She showed me dreams. Groundbreaking investment opportunities, enormous profits, and the birth of a son. Carol had used pregnancy pills to fake her pregnancy. It was a perfect plan that cleverly exploited the Brown family's obsession with an heir. Margaret's heart was completely in her palm with her desire for a male grandchild. Mother would say every day, "It's a boy, surely it's a boy." "Amy, that rainy night when we drove you and Lily out, I was already caught in her trap." Pushed by Mother's voice. The suicide note also detailed how the assets were lost. It started with small transfers under the guise of investments. The amounts gradually increased, until finally they touched the mansion, cars, and even company assets. By the time I realized, it was too late. $20 million. Almost all of the Brown family assets were gone. I had even touched company funds. And the final blow. The pregnancy, the birth, the male child, everything was a lie. Carol had used forged documents and even prepared a birth certificate for a non-existent male child. A perfect deception that even included tampering with hospital databases. When I learned the truth, I wanted to die. The Brown family honor, built up since my father's time, had fallen to the ground. I had lost company funds and couldn't escape criminal responsibility. And above all, you and Lily, in such a way. At the end of the note, there were words for Lily. "Lily, I'm so sorry. I had an angel like you as a daughter, yet I made the worst choice as a father. In the future, you might be pointed at as that man's daughter. But that's all my sin as your father. You are completely innocent." According to the police, Carol Smith was a habitual marriage fraudster. 3 similar cases had already been reported, with this being the largest amount stolen. Using pregnancy pills for pregnancy fraud was her typical method, specifically targeting wealthy families obsessed with heirs. When I returned to check on Margaret, she was sitting dazed in her bedroom. All her former dignity and coldness had vanished, leaving only the figure of a devastated mother. I killed my son." Her trembling hands held a photo of James as a baby. The mother-in-law crying before me was no longer the cruel woman who had driven me out. She was just a grieving mother. The Brown family heir, a male child. I was too obsessed with such things. Margaret began talking through her tears. The long-standing traditions of the Brown family. Their position in society. Everything had bound her. "You know, Ever since I lost my husband, I've been fixated on having a boy. Wanting James to have an heir. But that obsession drove my son too. She suddenly grabbed my hands and desperately repeated words of apology. Amy, I'm so sorry. How cruel I was to you and Lily. How foolish I was. To drive out my own granddaughter, my precious, precious granddaughter. At that moment, Lily crawled in from the hallway. Still just learning to walk, she approached Margaret's feet with cheerful sounds. Margaret truly looked at her granddaughter for the first time. Lily's innocent smile. Her black hair like James's. Her gentle eyes like mine. She's so beautiful. Why didn't I notice before? As she lifted Lily with trembling hands, I made my decision. Hatred and anger were no longer necessary. What we needed now was to create a new kind of family. Mother quietly spoke from behind me. Amy, what will you do now? Outside the window, the sun was beginning to rise. The Greenwich townscape was being embraced by gentle light. We'll start over here. I answered while watching Lily and Margaret. I'll reopen the piano studio. Like the children I taught at the shelter, I want to heal hearts through the power of music. Mother nodded quietly. And Margaret, holding Lily, gave a small nod as well. The new morning light was announcing the beginning of our new life. A path choosing forgiveness over hatred, healing over revenge. For Lily's sake, and to fulfill James's final wish. We were about to begin walking as a new family. 6 months have passed since then. Miss Amy, I can play this piece perfectly now. Chopin's waltz echoes through the quiet residential area of Greenwich. I opened my long-desired piano studio in a renovated room of the mansion where I once lived with James. Many of the students are children from the shelter who shared those days with me. Thanks to Margaret providing a van for transportation, students can now come from far away. Wonderful, Sarah. When I applaud with a smile, Lily also claps her tiny hands in joy. My daughter, now a year and a half old, toddles around the piano during lessons, occasionally reaching for the keys. She'll be a pianist soon. Margaret gently lifts her granddaughter. Now, her expression has lost its former intimidating air, filled instead with gentle warmth. Last week, news came that Carol Smith had been arrested in Mexico. After 5 months of international pursuit, she was finally caught. Her methods had been sophisticated. Pregnancy fraud using pregnancy pills, forged birth certificates, even tampering with hospital databases. It was revealed she had committed more than 10 similar frauds. The total damages exceeded $50 million. Most of her targets were wealthy families obsessed with heirs. Our $20 million was just a part of it. The suspect faces up to 20 years in prison after indictment. When the investigator told us this, strangely, my heart felt lighter. There was no more hatred or anger. Only relief that everything was over. While some assets were recovered, we couldn't return to our former lifestyle. But perhaps that was fortunate for us. Because we could now see what was truly important, which had been invisible in our luxurious life. A house filled with piano music is wonderful, isn't it? Mother murmurs while making tea. She visits without fail every weekend, now an essential member of our family. Margaret has distanced herself from Greenwich society. Instead, she began volunteering at a local domestic violence support organization. "Doing what I can," she says. James's memorial photo sits above the living room fireplace. Next to it is a photo from his childhood. Margaret sometimes stops in front of it, quietly closing her eyes. A time for regret and prayer. But now, her expression has regained its serenity. "Look, Papa." Lily sometimes waves at the photo. Her innocent gesture brings us healing. Next week, 3 new students will join. Twin boys from the neighborhood and a girl from the shelter. Music knows no gender. That's our studio's motto now. In the evening, after the last student leaves, I sit alone at the piano. Though I gave up my dream of becoming a performer, I now have a new dream. Healing wounded hearts through music. The sun sets in the Greenwich sky. As I wait for a new morning, I play Schubert's Impromptu. A musical journey from sorrow to hope. It was the story of our family itself. Toward the yet unseen tomorrow. Toward the beginning of a new life for Lily and all of us. Daddy told me not to tell anyone about what happened that night, but As Tammy spoke, she seemed to be remembering something painful and began to cry. "What do you mean, what the hell happened?" "Actually, Dad is in my room." And I was deeply shocked by the truth that Tammy revealed. I never thought my husband would do that. My husband still sleeps with my daughter in her room for physical contact. I tore off his pants in the middle of the night, being careful not to wake him, to support my daughter's courageous testimony. Oh my God, Tammy is right. Then, an unbelievable fact is revealed. My name is Naja. My husband, Asher, was a member of the soccer team of a powerful school when he was a student, and at one point aspired to become a professional soccer player. Although his dream of becoming a professional did not come true in the end, he still continues to play futsal as a hobby. Asher was a bit selfish and tended to put himself before his family. Our only daughter, Tammy, was born, and even though I was struggling with raising a child for the first time, Asher would always go out to play futsal, pretending that raising a child was none of his business. "Hey, you're a father now, right? Don't you think you'd like to raise a child a little more and not prioritize your own hobbies?" "Huh? You're in charge of childcare. What a housewife is for. I usually work under stress, so let me have some freedom on my days off." It's true that I'm a stay-at-home mom, but Asher was the one who wanted me to quit my job and start a family. And yet, it's so terrible that he insults me and tells me not to talk back. However, despite my arguments, Asher didn't change his mind and instead started going out even more. When Tammy was old enough to go out with my husband, I reluctantly went to see Asher futsal games. It's great that the family is so close that your wife and child come to watch the games. Oh, well. Asher was in a good mood when we showed up, as if he didn't mind hearing that from his friends. At home, he continues to behave in a selfish manner, but although I am a little dissatisfied with Asher in my heart, I put up with it because it means the family will go. As a result, our family was able to live a peaceful life on the surface. Daddy. One day on his day off, Asher was at home for the rare occasion, and Tammy, who had recently learned to walk, toddled closer to Asher. And with her unsteady steps, she accidentally stepped on Asher's foot. Even though she stepped on it, it weighed at most a 1-year-old child. But Asher was furious at Tammy for stepping on his foot. "You're kidding. What will you do if my leg gets hurt?" She was suddenly yelled at by her father, and Tammy, who had no idea what was going on, started crying in confusion. "Hey! Don't get so angry just because a kid stepped on your foot. You're not looking at her properly, so she's walking around aimlessly and this is what's going on. Lock this guy up somewhere when I'm here. He plays futsal, so I know that his feet are more important than anything else. However, there's no way he would get hurt even if he was stepped on by a child." I was taken aback by his insistence on accidents, so I ignored Asher. As I picked up Tammy, who was crying a lot, and reassured her that she was okay, Asher didn't like it and left the house, grumbling about something. For that person, family comes second, and first is his self. Asher's selfish nature, which was hidden when we were dating, made me wonder if it would be okay to continue our relationship with this person. But he can't deprive Tammy, who is still young, of her father. Knowing that I just had to put up with myself, I began to try my best not to make Asher angry. And 10 years have passed since then. Tammy is now in the upper grades of elementary school, and day by day she is becoming more like an older sister, and she is showing me some heartwarming growth, like telling me stories about the boy she likes. Her relationship with her father, Asher, is neither good nor bad. As always, Asher used his holidays to pursue his hobbies and was rarely at home. If you guys are here, I won't be able to concentrate on playing and will be distracted. You don't have to come to the game anymore. When Tammy was little, she used to go to games often, but these days Asher tells us that we don't have to come, so we don't do that anymore. I'm not particularly interested in futsal, and the reason I went to see the match was to show Asher how he was doing, so I decided not to attend. In that case, Tammy and I could spend the holidays relaxing, which was actually convenient for me. However, around this time, someone with malicious intent began to play tricks on our family. This morning, when I opened the mailbox to get the newspaper, there was a plastic bag with something inside. Who the hell is that again? The contents, which gave off a distinctly foul odor, were rotting garbage. Like this, garbage was put in my mailbox every few days, and slanderous letters I didn't recognize were posted on my front door. Sensing danger, I consult Asher, but he laughs and says, "Don't worry about it, it's just a prank." I countered with Asher, who acts like he's no one else's business because he's rarely home, but what if something happens to Tammy? No matter how you look at it, it's more than just a prank. What if we leave it alone and something happens to Tammy? I'll call the police. Oh, stop it, stop it. It's bound to be temporary anyway. Why don't you call the police? Asher became visibly flustered when I mentioned the word police. Why? I think it would be better to consult with them as soon as possible and have them catch the culprit. No, you should be more careful. If you call the police, it might provoke the culprit and it may escalate further. I think you should wait a little longer. It didn't make sense to me, but since Asher was so desperately against calling the police, I reluctantly decided to do as my husband suggested and wait and see. One day, a while later, Asher said, a futsal practice match was suddenly scheduled in the neighboring prefecture. It's quite sudden. When will you be back? Oh, maybe tomorrow. Asher's attitude towards the sudden match is somewhat ambiguous. I was suspicious of him, but when I questioned him, he either ignored me or yelled at me. With that in mind, I silently sent him away, but it wasn't until 3 days later that Asher finally returned home. I haven't been able to contact you, and you came back later than I said, so what's going on? I was worried. I was late getting home because of various problems. My smartphone was out of charge, so I couldn't contact you. I guess it can't be helped. One of your teammates had a charger, right? Didn't you borrow one? When Asher returned home, I asked him what he had been doing, but he gave me some excuses, and ended the conversation as if he was bothering me. Was this person really going to a futsal match? I became increasingly suspicious of his obviously suspicious behavior. That night, when Asher returned home, he suddenly said something strange. I must have been lonely since I was away for a while. I'll sleep in Tammy's room from today onwards. What happened suddenly in Tammy's room? Until now, I've left all the childcare to you, right? It's late, but I'm reflecting on it. From now on, I need to cherish the time with my girlfriend's daughter more. That's what I think. I was confused as to what the change in state of mind was, but she seemed happy that her father was sleeping in her room. It's my first time sleeping with my dad. I'm fine with it. Hey, Mom, you're fine, right? On the surface, Tammy didn't say that she missed her father too much even though he was often absent, but she must have really missed him. I was still confused, but seeing Tammy's behavior, I agreed to let Asher sleep in her daughter's bedroom. I tilted my head to the side, wondering if he had changed his mind, since he used to get upset just by Tammy trying to touch his legs. And there was another suspicious look on Asher's part. He used to wear short pants when he was working on his own, but from this day on he started wearing long pants. I was wondering what happened to Asher, who is usually sensitive to heat and prefers to wear light clothing. One day, while Asher was taking a bath, I went to the changing room to do some laundry. Asher was about to get out of the bath when he noticed me and hurriedly closed the bathroom door. Why are you in a place like that? Hurry and go somewhere. Asher looked upset and told me to hurry out of the changing room. Asher's attitude is clearly different from before. What? You're not embarrassed to have your body seen now, are you? You are a strange person. It seemed like he was hiding something, but I didn't know why. From then on, Asher began sleeping in Tammy's room instead of the couple's bedroom. Tammy didn't seem to mind either, so I let Asher do what he wanted. However, I later realized that this idea was a mistake and I sincerely regretted it. A week after Asher started sleeping with Tammy, I received a phone call from Tammy's school. The person on the other end of the phone call is Tammy's homeroom teacher, who asks me to come to school as soon as possible because she has something to talk to. Did she cause any trouble at school? No, that can't happen with Tammy. As I headed to school, worried about what I would be told, my teacher asked me something unexpected. Tammy, she hasn't been feeling well lately. Did something happen at home? What? My homeroom teacher asked me this with a serious expression, but I had no idea what this was. She acts cheerfully in front of me, but maybe she's worried about something. I told the homeroom teacher that I would keep an eye on my daughter's condition and left the school. After I got home, I called out to Tammy, who was watching TV in the living room, to talk to her. Tammy, I heard from your teacher at school and she said you haven't been feeling well lately. Is something bothering you? Why don't you talk to your mom? I asked gently, trying not to sound as accusatory as possible. Tammy was silent at first, but then she looked determined. My dad told me not to tell anyone about what happened that night because he kept it a secret, but me. As Tammy spoke, she started crying, as if she was remembering something painful. What do you mean? What exactly happened? Actually, Dad is in my room. And I was deeply shocked by the truth that Tammy revealed. I decided to confirm something to corroborate Tammy's testimony. Asher still sleeps in Tammy's room because he wants to have physical contact with his daughter. Late at night, I made sure Asher was in a deep sleep and ripped off his pants, being careful not to wake him. Oh my God, Tammy is right. For proof, I use my smartphone to take a picture of my husband wearing only his underwear. As I turned on the lights in the bedroom to take the photo, he eventually noticed something strange and woke up. What? It's dazzling. What are you doing? Whatever you're doing, that's my line. What the hell does that mean? Please explain. That's it, I yelled, pointing at Asher's leg. Asher had several painful cuts from his shin to his thigh. The reason why he suddenly started wearing long pants and why he stubbornly avoided being seen naked was probably because he couldn't see this scar. What's this scar? What the hell are you hiding? This is, I got injured in a practice match. Is this a wound from a match? No matter how you look at it, it's not a cut from a knife. Asher stubbornly insisted that the wound was clearly caused by a sharp knife, saying, I got hurt in a match. Asher said he would be worried if I found out about the injury, so he decided to sleep in Tammy's room for a while so I wouldn't see it until it was less obvious. Apparently, while Tammy was sleeping, he tried to change her bandage with a new one, but Tammy, who had not yet fallen asleep, accidentally saw him. Asher had told Tammy not to tell her mother. But Tammy thinks that her father was attacked and injured by someone, which is why she is depressed. She is still an elementary school student. The shock of suddenly seeing a fresh, unexplained scar on her father's leg was immeasurable. She was even told to keep it quiet. Tammy is a serious person who doesn't think she should hide anything. She must have been really worried about telling me the truth. Don't make a big deal about it. This is why I kept quiet. This will heal quickly. You say that, Tammy is shocked because of the strange way you hid it. Don't you think anything about it? It's her mother's job to follow up on her, right? It's enough, I'm tired. Just let me sleep. Asher looked taken aback by my words, put on his pants, went back to bed, pulled the covers over his head, and fell asleep. Asher keeps making excuses, but it's definitely strange. He must be hiding something. We finished the conversation, but I wasn't satisfied with his lame excuses, so I decided to secretly meet with Asher, teammates, and listen to his story. Then, an unbelievable fact is revealed. According to his teammates, he hasn't played a practice match in a neighboring prefecture recently, and he has been missing futsal practice more and more since a year ago. My husband used to go out so often because he had to go to a game. But it turned out that it was all a lie. What do you mean? So where exactly is Asher going? The mystery only deepens. Even if you question him, he won't confess. However, I couldn't leave Asher alone like this, so I decided to ask a detective to investigate Asher's background. As a result, I learned that Asher has been having an affair with a woman named Caitlin, a subordinate of his at work, for the past year. Asher had been having secret meetings with Caitlin frequently, lying about futsal practice. "I guess you were hiding something from me." I confronted him with a report from a detective and a photo of him walking down the street, arm in arm, with Caitlin, the woman he was having an affair with. "Oh, how did you get something like this? Your strange behavior is even affecting Tammy." "That's why I asked a detective to help. I couldn't believe you were cheating on me." Asher is shocked by the irresistible evidence of an affair, and eventually admits to having had an affair with Caitlin. According to Asher, Caitlin was also the perpetrator who repeatedly came to his home to harass him. Even on that day when they lied about having a practice match in the next prefecture, Asher had a secret meeting with Caitlin at the hotel. When they parted ways, he confessed that she had attacked him multiple times with a survival knife, saying, "If you don't break up with your wife, I'll make you unable to play." Apparently, those countless cuts were revenge for Asher never divorcing his wife. "I'm a victim too. I never expected a woman to do something like that. It was just for fun, but it turned into something serious." Asher was throwing up disgustingly. However, it is clear that Asher is at fault for seducing a single woman even though he has a wife and child. But Asher didn't seem to think it was his fault in the slightest. Caitlin allegedly slashed Asher and then fled somewhere. Her murder weapon was a survival knife, so if she made one mistake, his life could be at stake. Fortunately, he wasn't seriously injured, but if I found out about the scar, it would be revealed that he was cheating on me. With this in mind, Asher was forced to stay in a hotel until his injury healed to some extent. And when he got home, he decided to sleep in his daughter Tammy's room so I wouldn't be able to see his legs. Apparently, she was trying to hide his scars from Tammy too, but she was accidentally seen and she was forced to keep quiet. But it hurt her daughter's heart. It can't be helped if everything is already known. Caitlin and I broke up, so don't worry about it anymore. From now on, I'll come home properly. Asher said that to please me, but I would never forgive him. Asher did not report Caitlin's crime to the police, fearing that his affair would be discovered. That means Caitlin is still on the loose, and she could come after Asher again. Maybe next time the brunt of the grudge will be directed at me or Tammy. With that in mind, I couldn't stay in this house anymore. The next day, while Asher was at work, I packed up my things, left the house with only my completed divorce papers, and went to pick up Tammy from school. When I saw the scar on my dad's leg, I was always scared. I thought someone was going to attack our family. "I'm sorry, Tammy, I made you feel scared. Your mother will protect you from now on." I squeezed Tammy's hand tightly as she became anxious. Asher is not a reliable person at all, I have to protect her. We explained the situation and decided to stay with my sister's family for a while. When Asher returns home, he finds Caitlin waiting for him with a survival knife. "How long do you have to make me wait until you're satisfied? Break up with your wife as soon as possible." "Well, wait. Seeing Caitlin's strange behavior, Asher rushes out of the house and calls for help. Fortunately, it was at a time when there were a lot of passers-by, and someone saw Caitlin running after Asher with a survival knife, shaking her hair and screaming. Someone called the police right away, and Caitlin was caught red-handed. When I learned about this on the TV news, I felt relieved, but also horrified that if there had been even a slight delay in evacuation, we too might have been in harm's way. That woman was also arrested, so it's time for you to cool down and come back. I started receiving messages like this from Asher every day. It seems that everything is over with him, but I can't bring myself to get back together with the man who betrayed his wife and child and put us in danger. When I told him that I had no intention of rebuilding our relationship and that we could no longer work together as a couple, Asher complained that I didn't want to do it. Cheating is something every man would do. I'm not going to get divorced. It's not my fault. I tore up the divorce papers, so come back. Asher refuses to admit any fault and says he doesn't want a divorce, but the divorce negotiations end up becoming a lengthy court case. However, I hired a detective and secretly collected evidence of the affair, and my claim was fully accepted in court. The divorce was finally finalized, and Asher ended up paying me a large amount of alimony and child support. Until the end, Asher was begging me and Tammy to come back, but my daughter and I had long since lost any love for him. I don't want to live with the person who caused my mother pain. You never cared about us to begin with. You're also even saying that. Forget the kindness I gave you by raising you, you unfilial child. Perhaps hurt by Tammy's words, Asher cursed his daughter for being unfilial. I don't remember being raised by my father. I never want to see you again. Perhaps those words were the decisive blow for Asher, who was disgusted by his daughter and realized that he couldn't do it anymore, so he hung his head helplessly. Then I learned in the press that Caitlin was arrested on a charge of disorderly conduct, and that she didn't seem to have any remorse at all. When Caitlin completed her sentence and was released from prison, she said with a smile, "I want to meet Asher. I want us to live happily together this time." Asher must have been horrified. Terrified by Caitlin's release, Asher flees town, and it is unknown where he has lived since then. With the help of her parents, she decided to move far away to another prefecture so that Caitlin, who was released from prison, would never run into her. She was worried about moving to a new place, but I have a precious daughter. I was willing to accept some anxiety and hardship for the sake of this child's safety and smile. So we moved, started a new life with a fresh start. At one time, Tammy seemed nervous due to my divorce and moving, but now she has finally gotten used to her new elementary school and has made many friends, and now she is finally showing her bright smile again. I want to make sure that I only have fun experiences from now on, as much as I made her feel bad. I became a single mother, but thanks to the help of a skilled lawyer, I was able to receive enough compensation from Asher to keep her safe for the time being. I started working in a new place, but to avoid making Tammy feel lonely, I made sure to come home on time and communicate with her daughter. Tammy came home from school and was eating the dinner I made, looking delicious. When I saw her eyes shining as she told me about the fun things that happened today, I realized that these simple, peaceful days are more important than anything else.